first of all, when I meet parents and stuff, she's a mama polar bear. And sometimes the mama polar bear has to slap the cub on the ice because she knows there's a killer whale under there in that air pocket. She never stopped. She came to our school and did some training with Beth Moore. She's done a wonderful job. She's an inspiration to all of us. I want to thank my colleague, Kelly. She gave a great overview there of dyslexia. And I can say I'm like George Carlin. I've seen that definition change 5 or 6 times sitting in the room. I remember the Orton Society. That's how far back I go. And eventually turned into the IDA, the International Dyslexic Society. I'm also one of the very few left. We call them the last of the Mohicans. I'm supposedly a fellow, a doctorate in reading. You don't want me to teach you reading, but I have an honorary fellow. Back in the day, us headmasters that ran dyslexic schools, we did these things. Well, this here, I got something in this magic bag, which is all middle schoolers anonymous to you parents. The black bag, okay? It's the black hole. Things go in it and it never gets home. And I'll get into this quickly. I'll go as fast as I can. Most of the reading is educational ideas. I'm an educator who happens to be a teacher at the same time, okay? Dyslexic, schmectic, whatever. Hey, DDT, all those things. Get rid of the labels, just be who you are, okay? Now here, this little poem here, or what I wrote, I was able to, in 1993, get even with a college professor. And I was happy enough to lead the annual Living Endowment campaign for my college. And Dr. Reams failed me like 5 times in English. And I went to college for 8 years to try to get through. I have no high school diploma. I failed the GED. I grew up very poor, okay? So when I was on stage, I had a big red pen in my bag and on my jacket, and I went out and I gave it to Dr. Reams. And the student body just came down because he was always failing. And whenever he had me in class, he said, Dana, I got to get a box of red pens because I'm about to grade your paper. It hurt. So I always think of this with first graders. In first grade, the red pen will prick you. In second grade, the red pen will cut you. Third grade, the red pen will make you bleed the rest of your life. Be careful how you use the red pen. It has tremendous powers, good and bad, as educators. How many people in here are teachers? Okay. How many of you guys are from Clark County? Great, we got some Clark County participants today. Okay, now, if you look at my bio, or whatever you want to call it, I don't keep up with this too much, but for a long time I was doing a lot of speeches with the Orton Society and all this other stuff, and just recently I won an award as the creative, most innovative headmaster in the state of South Carolina. Times haven't changed much, but I learned so much at Carver Elementary. I learned about Dr. Jesus, but those teachers in that school gave me the best student teaching preparation for education ever. They did more with less than what everyone does with a lot. And that school taught me so many things, not just about dyslexics. Half the kids in there were having reading problems and stuff, but it taught me about life and that it doesn't really matter what you're doing teaching, no matter what the success you have as a teacher. It only matters that your kid learns. That's why I don't speak that much anymore, because I can't say the words, and I'm losing it. Since I've been 5 years old, I've done everything by memory, auditorily, everything. School, getting in trouble, everything. It's all up here. And I have so much that's in my head to get out after 40 years of education, it's hard for me. And I don't read publicly, hardly ever. I don't really talk too much about my background, but since you're talking about this, and I condemn, there it is, I condemn, what's the word? I recommend the struggles that Olivia's been through. It made her tougher. Her mom forged her. She's like steel. That girl's really tough. That's an important element we're missing. That road is important, the journey. And that's why I'll get into some other stuff with dysgraphia. But here it says, I found myself able to express myself more vividly than my colleagues. It is true that dyslexic people sometimes over-explain issues, maybe because we need to be totally sure we have made ourselves clear before we can move on to the next issue. But an overflow of information has rarely been a problem for an engineer who needs to understand how a car is behaving, or for an executive who needs to understand every aspect of the proposal. Dyslexia can be good. These are 34 pages called I Am Stupid by Jackie Stewart. You'll see him doing the Heineken commercials. He thought he was stupid all his life. He's a very wealthy man. His last Heineken commercial that he did took him 3 hours to try to get the script. Jackie Stewart. And he was diagnosed when he was 41 years old. One of the most famous guys in the world in the auto industry, plus as a spokesman for character, everything in the world. He also, what we're trying to do here with Lori, did this in Scotland and the Dyslexic Society there. He is very dyslexic. And he has a program in England and stuff for children that he felt all the teachers should be trained in phonetics. Jackie Stewart has a foundation. And it's an interesting book, but there's 32 pages called I Am Stupid and How He Grew Up. And he didn't get into a race car till he was 23 years old, which is amazing. He could memorize Nuremberg, 189 turns, 11.6 miles at 200 miles an hour and know every turn, but he couldn't say a word. And he would dodge the cameras afterwards. And he felt what you said. It was torture for me. It was always torture for me. So it's an interesting book. Anyway, there is no silver bullet for dyslexia. Embrace it, celebrate it, have a good time with it, but just get on with your life. Have fun. Have fun. I do a lot of stuff talking to kids. The keys to it: appropriate education, culture, and expectations. I'm here to talk about climate, school culture. I'm going to ask you, can you grow a plant? Can you grow a plant? Yeah, can you grow a plant? You can't. Can you grow a plant? What do you got to do? But can you grow it? Yeah. You can facilitate it, but what do you need? The sun, photosynthesis. No one can teach a child. You've got to give it the ingredients and the soil, nutrition to put in an environment for it to grow. Teachers forget that. They're the sun. They're the ones that are the photosynthesis to create the climate where it's so safe to fail. We know that children, by the time they're in third grade, they all start out, they raise their hands, they're smart. But third grade, I better kind of know, I don't know, or I know. Why do we do that in education? I call it educational smog. Every kid should feel they're the smartest in the world from the day they hit school to the day they leave. But we don't do that. This system is like salmon going up a stream. Last year, 2017, $682 billion were spent on America's education. The NFL does $15 billion. Publishing companies, pharmaceutical companies, like you said, I call them elixirs. Hey, I got a workshop today. I did it. I'm trained to do this. There's a lot of stuff in our field that needs to be changed. And what Lori and Sig are doing is amazing. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's good teaching. How you teach bright dyslexics or any kid is good for all. It shouldn't be just a sum. You know, there is no such thing as a poor dyslexic. I hate to tell you that. Either you're there or you're getting help. There's no way in between. She has to call services. You know, I'm a school that's private. By our name, we're elitist because it costs money. But it shouldn't be. It should be for all kids. You know, we have a brand of one-room schoolhouse. And instead of spending on fancy computers and stuff, we built an authentic Bloomfield one-room schoolhouse. And there's no electronics in it, chalkboard, da-da-da-da, do that. We teach reading all the way through 8th grade. America used to do that to the 12th grade. We use a 1950 public school curriculum phonetically based as a school. Most of the bright dyslexic schools use that, okay? The founding fathers, cursive handwriting. World War I to get Woodrow Wilson to get the people to go with the war in World War I made all the troops do what? Write home in cursive handwriting. Somewhere along the way, certain things started happening with phonics and literature and the universities. But it's very costly, very expensive to get the training. Hours and hours and hours. When we look at speech pathologists, we want them to have the dual degree. Now, Charlie Haney from Harvard started it. You get a speech pathology degree, plus you get a master's in reading at the same time. And sometimes it's hard. Teaching is, you guys that are teachers, you know teaching dirty business. It's really dirty business because you can see a mom coming a mile away or dad, oh gosh, what did I do today? You got to be prepared for that. You know who the crackerbockers are. You know all of them, who they are in the school. So proper instruction is the first thing, but maybe not. Proper testing and the roadmap, like what she's saying, that gives her a plan where to go with that child. We look at psychs and how we put them together mathematically. It is a mathematical logistic thing to get all these kids running on the same page. I believe every teacher should be trained in understanding a WISC-5, how to read a test. Every teacher should have that. Now for me, I can't do it the normal way. So I stood out of a building at Harvard and pulled, this lady thought I was probably picking her up. I said, hey, I got $2,000 for you. Well, the head of the department, I hired her for $2,000 to teach me how to read psychs because I'm not good in the classroom. So I found another way to do it. That's beauty of different thinking, I guess. But that's how I learned psychs. I guess I'm pretty good at reading a psychological on children to go, do this, do this. I'm a trainer. I'm not a teacher. I teach and stuff, but my tutors, they all work together. I try to tell them. I usually can intimidate people when I walk into a room that's Dana, he's a fellow, he knows reading. I don't know it that well, but I can figure out how to teach that kid reading. So that's the first thing, a good roadmap. Find out what the weaknesses and strengths are of children. Proper language intervention, remediation, phonetic language-based instructions. For us, I gave you a lot of stuff about the school, which I'll get to little things. I believe all children have the right to fail, to pick themselves up again, dust themselves off and keep at it. America, for a lot of people, I study education, history, and stuff like that. We were never, ever number one in the world. That's a bunch of garbage by politicians. We were maybe 16th. But when our guys got out and women got to be about 20 years old, our model of education exploded them in creative ideas. I would have to take my English class, I called it a book for retards because it was that grammar thing I couldn't pass, and they brought me up on charges for cheating because I memorized the book after 8 years. I could know all the answers. After 8 years, you know them. But I would be in with freshmen in class, and no one made fun of me. Why do we do this in school? Why do we put little children that they go up a grade or down a grade? There's something wrong. There's nothing wrong. You're meeting them where they're at. We're a slider. We create an environment where kids can go up the ladder, down the ladder. Teach to potential. Don't teach to what you think's there. Think what it could be there as a teacher. You have that right, that obligation. Whether you're dyslexic, whatever, you give that kid that right. As you see, we have the first chartered dyslexic school in America in Greenville, South Carolina. If you look at this, Greenville's loaded. These schools here are all regular schools like the Meadows. They have learning programs. We all work together. Public schools sits down with private schools. Can you imagine that? And we talk together what we can do together. It's amazing. I don't know why they're not doing it here, but if they would have, they wouldn't have had a polar bear after all. You know? So that's that. Then you start looking around the country. You got to have the infrastructure here ready to go. You guys need to really think about the infrastructure when you're wanting these rights. You got to have it. And so you better get that in there. These are the schools across the country. That's nice. Great Dog and Pony Show by a bunch of dyslexics. The idea came from Spotlight. You know, they unraveled the Catholic Church in Boston for some bad things. Well, I told my kids, go after anything in town. Do whatever you want. And they actually did go after a teacher at Christ Church, printed it up. The headmaster thought it was a real newspaper talking about the firing. I got in trouble for that. But these are our graduates. Chandler has always over-prepared students. Even teachers will admit it, and so will the alumni. We hammer our kids. I mean, there is not a free lunch. But we groom them from the time they're first graders, so we don't take kids after 6th grade, because these guys are groomed. And they're ready for it. Boom, boom, boom. So I want my kids, normally, we have a 90% success rate of all children leaving our school get AP honors in social studies, history, geography. If a teacher sees a kid do that, and they're not reading their literature or something, hey, that kid's pretty smart. He's doing AP history, but he can't spell cat. A good teacher will say, what are we doing wrong here? This kid's smart. We have everything built into the curriculum for defense mechanism. This here is this. It's our teacher handbook. You can read it. What we have to do as teachers, how we do it. We teach grit. And so here's another no-brainer, quarter. We get dressed up. We do this. And out of this magic thing here is a notebook. And if it's red, it's social studies. From this notebook, we're a color-coded school. And I can tell you that because I have a red wallet. I'll lose it. So people look at me, but I don't lose my wallet. But here's red. So every week, teachers send out a syllabus. Parents get it, kids get it. From first grade on up, we're already teaching kids what to do. Boom, boom. Next thing is notes. Now all students, this is an upper grade, these are 7th graders. The most important thing in school today to teach is government. We have a real problem. America's education got all screwed up in the 80s when politics got involved. You can look to certain points where it all changed and what happened. So I think government is the biggest thing I can teach my kids, because they're going to be the future of deciding what's going to happen. So they get this note, they also have to copy it. Whether you're dysgraphic, whatever, you copy, buddy. But I know each kid where they're at, what they do. I want to give them a little bit more, a little bit more. Kid is dysgraphic here, this, here. It's not the challenge of the dysgraphia, it's the will to try. You instill the will to try. That's so important to a child. And you got to cultivate it as teachers and stuff. Our teachers come first, never students. You keep the team together. My staff's been together for 10 years. We don't change. We know each other. Know what each one's capable of. Know your teachers, their strengths. Like you guys are from Clark County, someone's good at this, someone's good. Have you ever been to analyze what your strengths are in school and put the faculty together like a team? That's a no-brainer. So they got that. Then they got worksheets. They're made to the notes, or this is from a book we got. Then they got their tests. Here's their test, writing. Give them all different types of questions, writing essays, multiple choice, different things. Then you write their names in the test. Like, Dana did a, duh, Dana. The answer is obvious. Everyone likes to get mail, right? Kids like to see their name in a question. Tommy was on the side of this. Oh, wait, they read it, okay? So by reading these notes, all the teachers make mistakes deliberately. Every 4 weeks, we call court. We get dressed up. The students take the teachers to court. I challenge, what was your name? What's your name?
Amy.
What was it?
Amy.
Amy. A little kid, 3rd grade. Miss Amy, I take her to court for science class. She did not put a dot at the end of this period. You got to defend yourself. The judge rules with Cheerio. We award you 5 minutes extra for recess. Woo! But the kids, who cares? They get 2 hours of extra recess today. They were reading grammar. They were reading their notes. It's a no-brainer. But I don't know why people don't do it. So the kids love court, taking the teachers to task. I get called wrong because I don't spell it correctly anyway. But anyway, here's another one that can solve Clark County's magical problems. The only thing we got, see, I did this here. I have this book bag, right? You all want to know what's going to happen. Middle schoolers are brain dead. It's the missing years of Jesus for 30 years. They're just tough. But I love middle schoolers. It's just fun. This will save you a lot of aggravation. Every teacher in our school, on their contract, says if they don't have a whole bunch of paper, they could be fired. Think of the organization system. It's a no-brainer. Papers are punched so kids can put it in here and work on fine motor skills and stuff, and they file. But how many teachers don't whole punch papers or have an organization system for the kids? This is all the way through our school. It's a no-brainer. Public schools, what are you thinking? This little thing here can save endless hours. Think of the phone calls that Lori did when she called Clark County. Endless hours of her trying to get things. A simple thing like this would help little Olivia. It's a no-brainer. And then the last thing, like I said, I'm trying to get 42 years of educational teaching workshops and all sorts of offensive and defensive teaching. There's different ways you do it. Recess is the most important class because teachers are on duty watching. You're studying kids. It is so much fun to teach. I've been lucky for 40 years, whatever, to teach every day. So thank you.